Fellow Canadians, are you done watching our kids get fed into an ideological meat grinder sold to them as necessary healthcare? Today, I'm sharing with you the story of one father and retired veteran who didn't just talk about the problem, but walked right into the belly of the beast and recorded it all. Let's dig in. Canadian father and retired veteran Jeff Evely has been sharing clips on social media of his consultations with various doctors and gender specialists, offering a rare look at how some families are treated when they question the pathway from social to medical transition for their children, raising concerns about treatments ranging from hormone therapy to full-on surgery, particularly where long-term evidence is either non-existent or where the latest evidence coming out shows irreversible harm. While Jeff was deployed overseas, the Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario, or CHEO, and specifically their Pediatric Gender Diversity Clinic, yes, such a thing exists, formed in 2011, started working directly with his own 16-year-old daughter. At just 16, that's still a very vulnerable, underdeveloped, rational, and underdeveloped reasonable brain, but technically the age of consent. So when Jeff came home, he did what any protective father would do. He sat in follow-up appointments and recorded them. What he captured is absolutely chilling. In one clip, you hear a psychiatrist admitting the weak evidence base for medical transition, especially for teens, while still confirming the trans diagnosis and supporting biomedical transition for Evely's own daughter.
Yeah, especially in teens, we don't have a lot of good evidence. Like, it's all very new. So there's more in adults, less in teen years. So in teen years, the gender identity tends to be much more fixed than it is in childhood.
The psychiatrist cites the now disgraced WPATH, which stands for World Professional Association for Transgender Health, where leaked files revealed their own members' private admissions of weak evidence, inability of minors to give informed consent, severe risks, and improvised experimentation on children and vulnerable adults, all of which resulted in an activist-driven approach that prioritized radical therapies over rigorous science, medical standards, and ethical considerations. Another clip features Chief of Adolescent Medicine, Dr. Stephen Fetter, telling Evely that gender identity can't be measured objectively. There are no tests, no MRIs, nothing. It's kind of like a trust me bro situation where they just listen to the child's heart and to their soul, and then they move forward on consensus.
Everything that you described as related to her condition, basically we just go down to tell her this is going to hurt the child. The solution. We listen to their heart and we listen to their soul, and we speak to them over time, and we listen to how they're suffering, and all of that tells us.
Yeah, so we have an MRI scheduled for the 5th. But there's nothing in the MRI that's going to say, oh, okay.
Would we be able to measure the white matter and gray matter?
I have to ask the radiologist.
Okay, so what would objectively measure something like that?
A lot of the research is done on functional MRI, so they look at, again, not just the anatomy of the brain, but the actual functionality of the brain, and look at where energy is first and where energy is second.
So how do we get one of those?
It's a research protocol. I'm not aware of where to get that.
Okay. Seems like a reasonable measure of due diligence for something like this.
No.
Why not?
From whatever has been done, there's never been any recommendation in any of the guidelines that one does an MRI before to tell you where to go with this. The rationale is that we listen to what the kids are saying, and we listen to what their hearts are saying, what their souls are saying. And
so how do we measure their souls?
By communication.
I see. Now, how do you know that a soul exists?
I don't have to answer that question. I don't have any more evidence than I had last time or the time before that. So I grant you that.
Jeff's asking about depression, social trends, comorbidities, detransition rates, long-term Swedish data showing higher suicide and mortality risks after transition, and he gets circular answers. No evidence, just affirmation. And then there's Dr. Maria Keeley, the one Jeff calls the beast. The clip shared shows the pressure, the gaslighting, the absolute refusal to slow down and explore what's really going on with these kids. It's not really care, it's more of a conveyor belt. Self-identification, blockers, hormones, surgery. And parents who push back, they're the ones being framed as the problem.
Well, last time we talked, you said with your vision for adolescent dysphoria. You said you were going to get them for me?
I don't have them here today.
Oh.
Didn't realize your appointment was today.
Oh, okay. So you don't have any of the things that you said you were going to get?
Okay. Is it going to help for us to talk here? Because I don't think it is.
I don't know if it will. It really depends on you.
I don't think that's
I got the stuff that you asked.
Okay. All right.
I don't think
So
it will.
I'm not gonna sit down and do this with you today. I'm really not.
Well,
I'm
here's
really
what
trying to support your.
there's the Johns Hopkins one because they stopped doing the surgery. Such help should be psychiatric rather than surgical.
Okay. All right. Listen, this isn't.
So, here's long-term follow-up transsexual persons undergoing sex reassignment surgery cohort study in Sweden. Surgery is not sufficient to alleviate morbidity or mortality. Female to male is 41%, down from 50%. Suicide rate. That was the case that you were making, yes?
Like disappointment with treatment. It's
Yeah.
not about research and the appointment finished and there's other patients.
Standards of care.
Yeah.
You realize
all
that we haven't discussed any of the different treatment options, and she therefore does not have informed consent, according to these standards of care.
Well, maybe you haven't discussed. I'm
No,
not.
parents, it should be discussed with parents, it's right
Well,
there.
not part of it. Yeah.
And she still needs to have consultation with the parents, that's what it says.
You can always write a note to the hospital if you're not happy with it.
Yeah, I know your ass is covered, I know, it's not that, it's what you're doing is unethical. And you asked me,
Listen, I'm not, again.
yeah, I know, you have an agenda, you're saying, you have an agenda.
It's not about your ass.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But you asked me for studies showing rates of reversion up to 90%. I brought them.
We're done. We're not.
You asked me for the Johns Hopkins, and I brought them. You asked me for studies on brain anatomy, and I brought them.
Jeff's clips expose what many Canadians don't realize is happening behind those closed clinic doors. That's part of why Jeff began the Mayday Kids in Crisis event, taking his perspective to Parliament Hill this Tuesday, May 5th in Ottawa. At 10:30 a.m., there will be a parliamentary press conference followed by a rally on the Hill at 1 p.m. and an event at the Bikers Church in Vanier from 6 p.m. onward. For anyone interested in attending, you can find the details and tickets at maydaycanada.com. As more time goes on, it really becomes clear that the science around gender transitioning of children and teens isn't settled at all. It's not even settled when it comes to adults. You can take the story of trans man Scott Nugent, who has suffered severe complications following transition-related surgeries, including prolonged infections that require extended courses of antibiotics. And even though these professionals repeatedly assured Jeff that these interventions are safe, reversible, and life-saving, that hesitation actually equals harm, the emerging evidence tells a very different story. The UK's Cass review laid it all bare. Weak foundations, contaminated studies, and a rush to medicalize kids who often have complex mental health needs that were never properly addressed. The Finnish study published last month drives it all home. Severe psychiatric issues don't magically vanish after hormones or surgery. In many cases, they not only stick around, but they actually get worse. The transitioning of young, healthy, beautiful as they are children isn't care. It's an experiment that sterilizes, medicalizes for life, and leaves devastated young people in its wake. Just ask the growing chorus of detransitioners who are finally finding their voices. For Rebel News, I'm Tamara Ugolini. Schools across Canada are soliciting your children's gender identity and sexual preferences without your knowledge or consent. That's why we launched a special website dedicated to this coverage at stopclassroomgrooming.com. To find out more on this file and support our journalism, please head on over to stopclassroomgrooming.com.